Hi, Sam Murjovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Friends, welcome to the What's Right Show, your place for common sense conservatism, Monday through Friday, here on the What's Right Media Network. Now, as I mentioned yesterday, Stavros Anthony, Lieutenant Governor of Nevada, is going to be joining us here at the bottom of the hour. So hang tight. We're going to have the governor on and talk to him a little bit about some of these controversies. You know, the Dems are going after him right now for his commission that he set up to get rid of men in women's sports. And he's one of, I think, the only lieutenant governor in the country who really took an axe to this. And now the Democrats are out looking for blood, targeting him with ethics complaints. So we'll have Stavros Anthony on here in a bit. My email, sam@whatsrightshow.com. That is the email to reach me at What's Right Sam on X, formerly known as Twitter. Now, a bunch of things going on. First of all, and this is big news, flying somewhat under the radar. There is a case, a very important case, making its way through the Supreme Court. Oral arguments were yesterday. This is Watson v. Republican National Committee. This is a state law that it challenges all state laws that permit mail-in ballots from arriving late. You know, some states allow them to show up a week after the election. And I've always, this has always been the problem. For example, in my home state of Nevada. Here in Nevada, we got a major problem with this because the Republican will win. The Republican will win on election night. And then all of a sudden, the Democrats realize, okay, all right, well, our candidate is down 2,000 votes. And lo and behold, over the course of several weeks, they procure just enough votes to have the Democrat carry the day. And it never works the other way around, folks. It never benefits the Republican. It's always the Republican that gets shafted and the Democrat that comes out on top. So the justices were, oral arguments, they seem not inclined to have this law remain and declare this unconstitutional. There was a great moment, Samuel Alito, yesterday, with comments about what does it mean to have an election day. It's an election day. Now we've turned it into an election month. Early voting, late voting, vote whenever you want. So anyway, it's true. I mean, that's what it's gotten to. Here's Alito talking about this, talking to one of the attorneys.
We have lots of phrases that involve two words, the second of which is day. Labor Day, Memorial Day, George Washington's birthday, Independence Day, birthday, and election day. And they're all particular days. So if we start with that, if I have nothing more to look at than the phrase election day, I think this is the day in which everything is going to take place, or almost everything. And then we have 3 points in time, 1844, 1872, 1914. And we can ask, what would people have thought on those days is meant by this phrase, election day?
Now, this is a classic case of originalism, going back to what our founders intended and what the law, as it is passed, means. And so a lot of people have been talking about this. They don't know where Alito's going with this. Quick explanation on this. 1844, 1872, and 1914 are moments where Congress legislated about certain elections and used the phrase, the two words, election day. They wrote it into law. So in 1844-45, this was the Presidential Electors Bill that is now 3 U.S.C. Section 1, 1872 House of Representatives, and then 1914 is U.S. Senators. And so these are the points in time when Congress actually legislated for these federal offices what election, what rules there are and what election day means. They never intended for election day to last a month. So this is kind of how it went. There's also a moment here with Sotomayor. Yes. Well, Sonia Sotomayor thought she had a gotcha for the Republican attorney. This guy really handed it back to her real fast. Such a great moment. And it sounded like this.
I think the more logical way to do it would be to say that with the understanding in this court, if you decide in our favor, that for the federal general election, the ballots have to be in by election day. I would say
maybe we should have another president now, because wasn't it in Florida that they were counting military votes after receipt?
So with all due respect, that is the reddest of red herrings, because what happened in the 2000 election in Florida is that pursuant to a consent decree that was entered by a federal court, because Florida was violating the principal provision of UACAVA, which says you have to give the absentee ballots to the overseas voters 45 days in advance. Because Florida was violating that, there had to be a consent decree to create a remedy that was not provided
What happened was that the judge made up the deadline, not the state.
Okay, this is a Supreme Court justice, and Sotomayor is an idiot. I mean, this is not a good argument by Paul Clement here, who's the attorney for the Republican National Committee, makes it really clear what happened in Florida. And the left always raises this. Well, we would have had a Democrat. We would have had Al Gore as president instead of George W. Bush had that election, had those late ballots not been counted. And the problem is there that federal law simply requires when there's a wrong done, when there's a mistake done, and here the ballots were sent out late to Florida-based, Florida voting service members. They went out late, and it requires, federal law requires a remedy, meaning a fix. And the judge, which is the appropriate, she's like, well, the judge made up rules. The judge's responsibility is to find a fix for this. Now, why does this matter? Well, again, where I started my conversation on this is the number of Democratic run states that continue to count votes for ballots that are received after the results of the election are published and are known, is an incredible opportunity to perpetuate fraud. Let's think about this, right? If you're the cheating party, if you're the party that's cheating, you don't want to cheat too much, right? You can't win by, okay, I'll give you an example. In a state like Nevada, which is, not quite 4 million people, 4 million people rounded up soaking wet. If suddenly there's an extra 500,000 ballots, then the norm, that's suspicious. And it's such a statistical anomaly that it would almost certainly trigger a recount and an investigation. And you don't need to, right, if your guy is winning by, oh yeah, and by the way, 80% of those extra ballots all show up for one candidate. So right, they only want to, a win is a win. You're not here to get the most votes. You're here to get more votes than the loser. That's how this works. And so they wait until after the election happens, and then they release their harvested ballots, whatever their funny ballots that they've printed and that they've put out there. This is exactly how they do it. And if you said, no, it has to be in by, 5 o'clock on election day, doesn't matter, whatever the excuse is, it has to be in. And then we count everything starting at 5 or 6 or whenever it is. We start counting, and the winner is, declared as soon as there's a clear answer. I mean, I'm telling you that this would absolutely gut the Democratic Party. If this decision comes down, as I expect it to before the midterms, will have an effect on the midterms that likely would help Republicans. Now, in states like California, run by Democrats, they'll still find a way to to weasel around on this. But anyway, it's just this is I wanted to bring this to your attention. Now, I didn't talk about this yesterday. We know a little bit more about it today, but that horrific crash at LaGuardia, I know a fair amount about aviation, and this is heartbreaking. There was a Sunday night is when it happened. Sunday night there was it was a Air Canada, correct? It's the Air Canada Express flight that was landing at LaGuardia, and the air traffic controller released a fire truck that was responding to another emergency across an active runway. In the immediate aftermath, you had air traffic controllers speaking with the tower, and they captured this audio. A little bit difficult to hear. I will make it clear here after I'm done playing the clip.
Yeah, we got stuff in process for that, man. That wasn't good to watch.
Yeah, I know I was here. I tried to reach out to my staff. We were dealing with an emergency earlier. Nothing.
No, man, you did the best you could.
Basically, the air traffic controller there talking to a pilot saying, I messed up. I was dealing with an emergency. It's just terrible. And the pilot says, no, you did the best you could. Now, pilots and air traffic controllers understand the problem. And the problem is that long before Trump even became president the first time, under Obama, we gutted, and I mean gutted, air traffic control, all because of DEI. And I've seen a lot of it. This is why I'm bringing this up right now. No, we don't know the identity of the air traffic controller yet. We know that the two pilots are fairly young. There is literally, from everything I've seen here, nothing that the two pilots could have done. They were just about on the ground, if not had their back gear on the ground. They could not have avoided that. That truck literally cut in front of them. Horrific video to watch. Now, this fact of the matter is he's dealing with a lot of stuff. He's got multiple things happening on his screen. They don't have enough people, is my point. We talked about this during the last government shutdown, and we were talking about this even before then. You remember between 2013 and 2014, changes that were in effect until the Trump first presidency. The FAA abandoned a merit-based system of hiring air traffic controllers. There was a program, there's a program called CTI. I think it's, Collegiate Training Initiative, I think is what it's called. And this is specialized training. And if there's an air traffic selection and training exam, the ATSAT, and the Obama people, the Obama administration began to incorporate a biographical questionnaire. Biographical questionnaire. I wonder what that could be. Started to ask people about their experiences. And the questions really were largely a proxy for socioeconomic and cultural factors, things like that. And the result was that thousands, there's an estimate, because there's been a number of lawsuits, about 2,500 to 3,000 of people who passed with flying colors the ATSAT and the CTI were rejected solely because they had bad BQ scores, basically DEI, right? And there's been depositions, this all is documented, okay? And it wasn't subtle, right? And at the time, I've been explaining this to you for a while now, explaining how the primary problem here is that the Democratic Party treats every federal job, every goodie that they can give out as a reward to their, to their friends and family, the people that support them. And the fundamentals of this is that they take these, because once you put in DEI, once you say that the BQ score matters, and you just make stuff up, right? It's not based on merit. Now you can decide essentially who gets these jobs. And you know, we've gone over this before. In overtime, these jobs are very well paid in air traffic control. They make a lot of money. I mean, there's people, it's not uncommon to have $200,000 a year plus. And the Democrats view these good paying jobs as patronage, right? They could hand these things out to their supporters. And that's what they were doing with this. And it was brazen. And we still haven't recovered from this, is my point. And so I've been pulling out my hair yesterday. I've been watching all these, you know, people on CNN and reading a bunch of websites. This is Trump's fault. This is Trump's fault. This problem has existed forever. And then when Biden came back into power, it was same old, because the same people came in and ran it. So that's just maddening. The BQ thing, yes, the BQ thing was discontinued by Trump in his first term. And it wasn't reinstated, but the Biden FAA went and they did this. They defended the Obama era practices in court, and they did other DEI initiatives. So, you know, so this is it. I mean, look, you literally, if you're missing 2,500 or 3,000 or more highly qualified applicants, then you're going to have problems. And you can't fix it in a year and 2 months. You just can't. Well, speaking of a year and 2 months, that's roughly how long Trump has been in office. Let me tell you something else. Is anybody noticing how the left is showing all of these images of Cuba? And you can see, right, there's 67 years of advanced decay and poverty and misery. And all of this is you know, I think manifestly obvious that it didn't happen in the last year and 2 months. And yet there's a growing narrative out there that Cuba's poverty and economic woes are the result of Trump and the Trump administration policies. You really have to suspend, you know, judgment and common sense to believe something like this, which of course is a hallmark of being a proper leftist. You need to leave your brain at home. But it just absolutely boggles the mind. So I'm seeing that. Yeah, I was yesterday afternoon on with John and Amanda on Just the News, Real America's Voice. John Solomon, of course, my good friend. It was a great conversation, and we're talking about Cuba and my experiences, you know, returning to my parents' country after it was liberated. You guys know the story, but I was sharing it with Real America's Voice, and we had a good conversation. But you know, it's devolved into the silly conversation here on the left about how this is all Trump's fault, and the fundamental thing behind it is leftists never want to acknowledge that they are to blame for failure. They take credit for everything that they don't do, and they point the finger for every bad consequence of their policies. And this will all come into focus as the reign of Zohran Mamdani continues to deliver a disaster in New York. And look at California. I am Nevada's favorite recovering Californian. I understand the state of California just as good, well as anybody. And you see Gavin Newsom as he's running for president, trapezing around the world, and all he does is talk about how great California's economy is. Look at me, I am the best. We're the 14th largest, we're the 7th largest economy, whatever it is that he says. And the wildest thing is that we all understand that but for the crazy Democrat policies in the state of California, it would be the number 2 after America, economy in the world. They take all the credit and accept zero responsibility for any failures. They never want to talk about the homes that didn't get rebuilt after the fire. They don't want to talk about the homelessness. They deny, they deflect, they make excuses, and so it goes. Sam Murjovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. Up next, the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Nevada, Stavros Anthony, a great American. Hang tight.
The Salmon Ash team, they wanted me to have the best care. They had my interests at heart. I have an enormous amount of gratitude. I cannot say enough thank you.
Greetings, friends. Welcome to the What's Right show. Joining us in the What's Right studios today is none other than the Lieutenant Governor of Nevada, Stavros Anthony, my good friend. Lieutenant Governor, thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Sam. You're a great American, and enjoy talking to you and all your listeners.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you, and I'm glad that we've got a little bit of time, and thank you for making time for us. So 2026 is a big election year. Everybody's talking about the midterms, but here in Nevada at home, and frankly across the country, are some important state and local elections. And one of those is your reelection campaign that is now underway. What's the latest? What's going on? What's the landscape look like for you? What do people need to know?
Yeah, well, again, thanks for having me. So, yeah, this is a big year. Three and a half years ago, Governor Lombardo and I were elected as Nevada's governor, lieutenant governor, and in fact, what's interesting is we were the only two governor and lieutenant governor in the last election to defeat two Democrat incumbents anywhere in the country. So it was a big win for Republicans statewide. Andy Matthews was elected as controller. So we've had those three constitutional offices again. So, I mean, obviously, this go around, we're asking the voters to reelect Governor Lombardo and myself and Andy Matthews and try to take back a few more constitutional offices. And really what we're focused on is trying to flip three Nevada State Senate seats. And if that happens, then we would have a majority in the Senate. So we could go into the next legislative session having the executive branch controlled by the Republicans, the Senate controlled by the Republicans, and probably the Assembly controlled by the Democrats. We would be in a better position to negotiate constitutional conservative values in this state, like we've been trying to do the last 3 years. Because you just have to imagine if a Democrat governor had been in place the last 3 years, the damage they would have done with a Democrat legislation passing woke laws, just crazy stuff that they tried to pass that the governor had to veto. So we want to keep the state going in the right direction. We believe this is the right direction, and we're hoping that Nevadans come out for us.
Speaking of woke, you have been, let me do that again. Speaking of woke, Lieutenant Governor, you have been in the news lately for your task force, your fight against men playing in women's sports. And there's been an ethics complaint filed and a fine levied. There's more to it here than what's being reported in the headlines. Give us a little background here and speed us up on what's going on.
Yeah, no, thanks for asking. This is really a remarkable event that's happened in Nevada. So if you step back about a year during the last legislative session, there were two bills introduced to ban men and women's sports. And I wanted to try to get those bills passed. I wanted to get them hearings, get some public comment. So, and in fact, it was very relevant because we just had a UNR volleyball women's team that decided to forfeit a game that had a man on it from California. And I'm very proud of those women and how courageous they were. And they took a lot of flack for what they did, but they did the right thing. So I decided to form the Lieutenant Governor's Task Force to protect female athletes. I found a chairwoman. We put around 20 women on it, and I basically turned it over to them and said, listen, I'm here to support you. We need to work together, but you're going to take the lead on trying to get this legislation passed. So we had a rally in Las Vegas and Reno. We visited legislators. We made public comment wherever we could, and the bills did not pass. But one of the outcomes was the NIAA, which is the governing body for high school sports. We were able to get them to ban men and women's sports on a high school level. And that was a big win for Nevada, and that's the way it is today. And unfortunately, the Democrat Party hates my guts for what I've done here. They hate me for starting this. They do. They hate me for this task force. They hate me for standing up for women. We did not get one legislator that supported those two bills. So they've been coming after me quite a bit. Yeah.
Well, look, I mean, but by the way, that win came in April, I believe, of last year. So you got that done, and I would add that since then the tide has turned on this nationally. The entire trans debate, is it's shifted, and in part because of people who, like you, took a bold position on this, relatively early on. But the absurdity was always the idea that you would have, physiological males playing, competing against, and certainly, competing and playing against women in contact sports where, injuries are likely to happen. So you were, this to me, I admired you for having taken this position at a time when I noted other Republicans in the state were not as brave. You took some arrows for it. I'm looking at this. I'm an attorney, and I'm looking at this ethics complaint. I was reading up on it, and I don't quite get it. I mean, you're promoting a governor's task force using the lieutenant governor's task force using your office. I mean, this was a state function. What am I missing here? Are these the grounds you're going to challenge this on?
Well, so when I said they're coming after me, the first thing they did was kill all three of my bills, which were very nonpartisan in the last legislative session. Which there's nothing I can do about that. But they've started this lawfare where they're getting people to file complaints with the Ethics Commission. So what you just said is absolutely true. The complaint said that I used state resources to ramp up a lieutenant governor's task force to protect female athletes. Well, that's correct. I did. I admit that. Unfortunately for them, there's nothing that keeps me from doing that. If I wanted to do a task force to protect veterans in Nevada, I could do that. But if I did the veterans thing, they would have said nothing. Now, because this has to do with their woke ideology, they're coming after me. They filed an ethics complaint. I've had to hire an attorney. I've had to pay an attorney, raise funds. We've had interrogatories. We had depositions, and just last week, on a 3-2 ruling, the Ethics Commission, 3 commissioners ruled against me, 2 ruled in favor of me, saying that I used state resources to fund this, and I admit to that. So I don't understand what the ruling is. They don't really say what I did wrong. I didn't do this for personal interests. If I had done that, then that would be an ethics complaint. So if they want to say that I use state resources to protect our female athletes here in Nevada, I'm going to continue doing that. I don't really care what they say. I don't care what their ruling is. We're going to go to court. I have to wait for their written deposition to come back. In the next 30 days, they have to give me a written ruling on. So I can't wait to read what that's going to be. But this is harassment to try to get me to back off. I am not backing off. I want Nevadans to know, and I want female athletes to know that I am going to fight for them to make sure that we do not have them play against men in sports. Because as you mentioned, it's not safe, it's not right, and we should not have this in Nevada.
I mean, the entire reason that we have Title IX and that we have taken steps to protect female athletes is to allow for them to compete and have their sphere of competition that's equal to men. And this has been a longstanding fight in our country, and it's frankly was once upon a time a liberal position. But as with many things, the left today has gone so far left and frankly out into outer space that now, we as conservatives are the common sense people, and they're the ones that are just have completely lost the plot. So I agree. I just want everybody to know I'm looking at this, and I fundamentally do not understand how, if you are exercising the core functions of your political office, are expending resources from your office on that core function, how that poses any kind of a legal a problem. So I anticipate you're going to win that. And of course,
Yes.
the entire objective here is to drain you of money and to muddy you up going into your reelection fight. Good news is the issue itself, an 80-20 issue, and I think the wind is certainly behind you on this. All right, final question here for you, and I appreciate your time again being here on the What's Right show with me, Lieutenant Governor. Is the state of our tourism. There's a fair amount of, I don't want to say doom and gloom out there, some influencers and other people talking down how dead the Strip is. I live here. I actually have a small place on the Strip, so I spend more time on the Strip than the average, full-time resident of Nevada. I haven't witnessed that personally. The numbers show a dip. There's also some evolution in this. So what's your impression of this, and what is the government to do about this? What is our state to do about this to position our tourism industry the best way possible?
That's a great question, Sam, because I know people have been talking about tourism and the numbers are down a little bit, but I've been here for 45 years and tourism goes up and down and sideways, and it changes all the time because Las Vegas, if we're talking here specifically about Las Vegas is changing all the time. We're trying new things. We're trying to transform into something else. I remember a time when we wanted to be a family-friendly destination. That did not work. We got rid of that pretty quick, and then we went into what happens here stays here, and that worked. So we're in kind of a flux right now. The casinos are trying to figure out who they should market to, who they want to come here, who they should identify. So we're always being unique. I mean, 10 years ago, sports would not come to Nevada. Today, we have every major sport pretty much in Nevada because of who we are. So to answer your question, the casinos have to do their part to decide who they want what is really their constituency. And what I can do as a chairman of the Nevada Tourism Commission, as lieutenant governor, is I will continue to market Las Vegas, to market Reno, to market the rest of the state as a great tourist destination, and work with the casinos to decide what is the next thing for Nevada and Las Vegas when it comes to tourism.
Yeah, I love this, and by the way, I'm glad you brought up your position on the tourism board, because yesterday I'm looking out of my window. I was on the Strip and I'm looking out of my condo down on the new stadium, on the A stadium, and it looks great and it's getting built. And then you go on X, which is not the real world, and there are some prominent influencers who are saying it's never going to get done. So we'll end it here. But what's your response as a guy on the inside?
It's going to get done. Las Vegas is the greatest tourist destination in the world. We will continue to transform ourselves, get better. The next thing, we will always be reworking Las Vegas and reworking Nevada. And Nevada is always going to be the top tourism destination in the world. I have no doubt about that.
Well, Lieutenant Governor Stavros Anthony, thank you for being with us. Please, please, please tell the audience where they can find you, how they can contribute, how they can support your campaign. Where do they go and what do they do?
Well, first, Sam, thank you for doing this What Matters episode. You're getting the message out to Nevadans on what exactly is the right thing to do, and I appreciate what you're doing there. So, again, my name's Stavros Anthony. I'm running for re-election for Nevada Lieutenant Governor. My website is Stavros for Nevada, Stavros, FORNV.com. You can go there, make a donation. I'm starting to raise money for a legal defense fund so I can help pay my attorney, because the ethics complaints are going to continue. They're going to keep coming after me. So Stavros for Nevada, and my email is stavrosanthony@gmail.com, stavrosanthony@gmail.com. So thanks for having me, and look forward to doing this again in the future.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Folks, welcome back. Sam Murjovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. Now, we just heard from Stavros Anthony, our lieutenant governor here in the great state of Nevada. And there's more to the interview. We had a longer conversation with him. Those were the highlights. And if you'd like to get that, if you'd like to see and hear the entire interview, well, I keep telling you this. Get the podcast. Find the What's Right Show wherever you get your podcasts. Click to subscribe. It doesn't cost anything. It's the best value on the internet right now, frankly. Okay, go there, click to subscribe, find me, and we're posting the bonus episode. It's already there. Okay, so there it is. By the way, a quick word here: Sam and Ash Injury Law, sponsors of this program. Support Sam and Ash. That's the way we pay the bills around here, okay? And I keep telling you, don't go at your case alone. Don't do it. It's not a DIY project. Okay, a lot of people try this. They write letters. They talk to the insurance company. They think, I'm just going to make this go away, or I'm going to ignore it, better yet. They find out at the end, you're a couple thousand, $3,000, $5,000, a guy I spoke to just the other day, $5,000 upside down, all for nothing. Turn it over to Sam and Ash Injury Law. Hand it over. Don't worry about it. Don't let it burden you. And the best part about it, it costs you nothing to hire Sam and Ash Injury Law. No money up front. And then it is a strict no recovery, no fee contract. If there isn't a resolution, if you don't get money at the end, you don't owe a dime. Sam and Ash Injury Law, 800-304-2000, 800-304-2000, samandashlaw.com, because you deserve what's right. Now, speaking of no recovery, no fee contracts, there's this hubbub going on online in Florida. Right, there's a race right now to replace DeSantis. DeSantis can't be governor again, right? He's termed out. So there's Democrats running and there's Republicans running. The Republican race just had some controversy because one of the two people running, a guy named James Fishback, has a colorful past and has had a series of lawsuits, and he is being sued by his former law firm for non-payment of fees. And this guy, instead of saying, oh, I'm, sorry, or, oh, I'm gonna pay it, just goes, yeah, I'm not paying my lawyer. He lost. Did you see this? He also got kicked out of Mar-a-Lago. Apparently he showed up to Mar-a-Lago. He said that he had an invitation, but was turned away at the gates. Now, this guy's a carnival barker, okay? It's my opinion on it. But I think he's getting some traction, Robbie. My sense of it, I haven't seen any polling. Well, Byron Donaldson is running as the sort of the lead candidate, and the problem with him is that he's kind of I don't know, Robbie. We haven't talked about it. What do you think of Donaldson? He's fine in Congress, right? He's black, he's conservative, he's Republican, but there's kind of no there. Okay, there's not a lot to him, and he's a little bit of just a little bit of a nothing burger. There, I said it, and lifts and all, the boots of the governor, Ron DeSantis, are big shoes to fill. They are. DeSantis, whatever you think of him, has been a phenomenal, tour de force governor in Florida. And I am worried about this race. And a lot of companies have moved to Florida and have made big business decisions around a future in Florida that is well run, well governed. And that certainly comes from the top. And DeSantis is a disciplined guy. Neither of these two guys running are going to be a match for it. But Fishbeck is he's an anti-Israel guy. He's going for the Tucker Carlson crowd, okay? And he's a little bit younger, right? And if you look at the polling, and this I do remember from the polls, is that Donaldson's support is with like the blue hairs. Well, not but boomers and people my age and up, and people younger than me. I'm 45. People younger than me are breaking. Republicans seem to be supporting or liking a lot this Fishback guy, who's just, to me, I think, a clown. Well, it's reminiscent of the Bobby guy here in Nevada who's running in the Republican primary for Congress. He's the ex-con. He has some legal problems in the past, and he's running a insurgent campaign here. And he's kind of fits in the same boat. I mean, getting a lot of traction on social media. Is there substance there? Is there, somebody who's going to govern? I don't think so. Not likely. But then again, people don't really want substance. They look at the people that watch. Hear Joe Rogan last week and Mark Normand on Erica Kirk. This is absolutely vile.
I've heard Erica Kirk's got a I've heard that one.
Whoa, she seems thrilled right now.
She's an odd duck.
She's a kook for sure.
You ever seen the compilation of her making crazy eyes?
No.
There's a video of her making demon eyes, and every time she makes the eyes, the music... It's so ridiculous.
She's possessed.
Well, she just gets intense.
Yeah. Number one podcaster in America. This passes for discourse. Meanwhile, Tucker Carlson's like, ooh, Sharia law, it's a great thing. He said that too the other day. My goodness. Maybe some of these wingnut candidates actually have a chance. Sam Murchowski here on the What's Right Media Network. See you tomorrow.